Most consoles seem pretty straightforward, but it seems like everything's hiding some secret somewhere. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on GameRanx, 10 secret console features discovered years later. Starting off with number 10, a secret way to bring PlayStation 1 saves back from the dead. So let's say you're in the PlayStation memory card utility, which is accessible by turning on the system without a game in it, and you're going through sorting stuff, trying to make some room for a new save for a new game. Now, that might sound like it's something that wouldn't happen terribly often on PS1 because there aren't a lot of new games, but there aren't a lot of new memory cards either. If you're still using the console, you may end up having to do that at some point. And while you're doing stuff like that, you may accidentally delete a save, and that could be unbearable if you've had a save for a very long time. However, there is actually a trick to bring back a save that you've accidentally deleted, assuming you haven't filled up the memory card with new stuff. So, let's say you're in the interface, you're deleting stuff, and then you get rid of the one thing that you didn't want to. No reason to panic, just take the PlayStation controller and press L1, L2, R1, R2 all at the same time a few times in a row. You don't need to hold them, it's just a tap, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's it. The save you just deleted will come right back. Big credit to YouTuber John Glasscock for this one. It seems like this doesn't exist anywhere in any documentation for the PlayStation 1, so big ups on that one. At number 9, there was actually a hidden game in the Sega Master System BIOS. Now, I don't know if you've heard of a game called Snail Maze, but let me tell you, it is quite a maze in which you navigate a snail from one point to another. So, you could access Snail Maze by turning on the Sega Master System and holding down 1, 2, and up at the Sega logo. And once you do, you are in for some serious snail action. Will the snail navigate the maze to the goal? Well, there's only one way to find out, and that is, of course, to hold 1, 2, and up at the Sega logo, turning on the Sega Master System without a cartridge in it, and playing Snail Maze. You have to play the game. Now, they removed this from later Sega Master System models, ones that included Sonic the Hedgehog and Alex Kidd in the Miracle World, but it was included on the Coleco Sonic handheld system that was released in 2006, and a fan game of it was released for the MSX computer in 2004. In case you're really hankering for some Snail Maze action. At number 8, the Nintendo 64 expansion pack was at one point in time regarded as just a superfluous thing. For instance, it came with Donkey Kong 64 and was said to be the last-minute fix for a game-breaking bug, justifying its inclusion in the packaging. This is actually not true. The expansion pack was actually a big thing for the system overall. It added 4 megabytes of RAM, which at this moment is, nothing. We talk about RAM in terms of gigabytes now, but back then, we talked about RAM in terms of kilobytes. A megabyte was insane. So adding that kind of RAM actually added a lot of capabilities, and it wasn't even that the expansion pack fixed a bug. That bug was actually fixed without the expansion pack. However, they did push the boundaries of the Nintendo 64 console with the expansion pack for the development of that game. At number 7, you can actually play Breakout on the 3DS browser. So, a specific version of the Nintendo 3DS allows for you to get into the browser and turn your recent browser history into pixelated blocks that you use to play Breakout. Now, Breakout is the old game. It's kind of like Pong, except for there isn't a second paddle you're playing against, but rather a bunch of different things. They can be lines, they can be whatever. You just bounce a ball back and forth and try to destroy all of them. That's what you're doing in the 3DS Breakout. So the way you get to this one is kind of interesting. You tap the Mario theme, like tap, 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 tap at the browser history, and then you select something from the browser history, and it makes those into Breakout. Now, there's a minor difference in this Breakout in that it is a little bit more physics-based. The ball definitely has gravity to it as opposed to just bouncing back and forth between the two things. But I actually think that makes it interesting, and it is a good version of the game. Unlocking it from tapping the Mario theme, it's fun. I really think that that's an interesting idea. At number 6, you can play certain Dreamcast games with motion controls. Now, that's a really specific statement. The kind of motion controls the Dreamcast had were all in the fishing controller. That controller had motion sensors that allowed the fishing game to do the fishing thing. You know exactly what a fishing controller is for. I don't need to explain it. You could also plug that thing in and actually play Virtua Tennis, though, with the fishing controller. Now, because it was fairly unsophisticated motion control, Virtua Tennis wasn't like as good as Wii Tennis or anything, and you could bug it out and easily kind of cheat at the game anyways. But it was a really cool way to play the game because, I mean, seriously, it's basically Wii Tennis super early. Now, it wasn't one-to-one exactly the same thing. Like I said, it was kind of easy to cheat at because it wasn't a particularly sophisticated controller, but there were other differences as well. In Wii Tennis, for instance, you have character movement that is done by the computer. In Virtua Tennis, you have a thumbstick on that fishing controller, and that is how you move that character around. There's other differences too, but I'd say that's the main one. But still, I mean, considering there is literally motion-controlled tennis on the Dreamcast in the year 2000, that's insane. At number 5, there were secret mini-games in the 3DS, one we've already talked about, but these are in the 3DS Sounds music player. Now, it's not as secret as the Tap the Mario theme to get Breakout in your browser history one, but if you go into 3DS Sound and play an MP3, there are different visuals that you can pick to accompany the game. One of them is a Game & Watch style man playing Keep Up with a Football. Now, the interesting thing is, it seems like it's just a visual, but it's actually a little hidden game. You can use the circle pad to control the little Game & Watch man. Now, is it the most complex game you're ever going to play? Absolutely not. It is simply a little fun thing, a nod to the Game & Watch system, and, of course, a nice little slice of Nintendo history that at any given time you can enjoy. At number 4, there's actually a few Xbox shortcuts you probably haven't heard of, but make it a lot quicker to navigate around the Xbox interface. There's just a few quick button combinations that, frankly, make it way less tedious to move around. For instance, if you hold down the Xbox button and press X, it just brings you straight to the idle screen. Holding down the left trigger and the right trigger and pressing Y will refresh your home page. Pressing the left and right bumpers and X on the ready to install page shows all the games that are hidden for installation. Pressing the left bumper and the right bumper and select, or the view button, opens other hidden menus with device information, device ID, console type, activate, install date, that type of stuff. And if you just hold down the Xbox button, it will shut your controller right off. It is not the most impressive set of secrets you're ever going to find, but once you get used to using these button combinations to navigate around various menus and open up various features, you'll find that it's a lot quicker, and that can be very nice. And number 3, hey, did you know that Sega Genesis controllers work on other things? It's kind of interesting, but it's the way that Sega Genesis controllers work. They're set up in the exact same way as the old 9-pin controllers. Essentially, the connector that was supplied was 9 pins, obviously. This is before we had USBs and we're using data transmission for controllers. This was purely on-off switches that were sending electrical signals to pins. But the Genesis controller and the controllers of like the Commodore 64, the Atari 2600 and a few other Ataris, VIC-20s, and even the Sega Master System all use this same 9-pin configuration. And therefore, if you can adapt the plug to the plug of the other system, meaning you make connections between all of the pins and the pins of the other system, it just works. The controllers are really just not different in terms of the mechanics. It's purely that they use proprietarily shaped plastic plugs that made them different. At number 2, there was actually an alternate menu on the Dreamcast. Now, the menu itself wasn't like super different or anything, it was just a different 3D perspective. If you paid attention, the menu actually used 3D models for its 4 selections, like the controller, the memory card, the music player, and the settings. We're all just like 3D representations of those things. Now, the very last Dreamcast game, Puyo Puyo Fever, was published with a little hack that you could install via the VMU, which would give you an alternate Dreamcast menu. Now, it would just basically shift the perspective of the menu a little bit. It was probably not a real major change in code or anything. It probably either just dictated an alternate angle or that this menu was actually already installed and it just unlocked it. I don't really know, but installing this brought you to the alternate menu. You could move around the perspective however you would like. It was pretty cool. It didn't really do anything, but it was definitely neat. And finally, at number 1, the Nintendo GameCube startup music is actually a super slow version of the Famicom Disk System startup sound. Not the part where the G rotates around and does the thing, but the music that's in the background of the menu is a super slowed down version of the insert disc screen on the Famicom Disk System. There's really no other way to show this than to demonstrate it, so here's the comparison. Editor should insert the comparison here. It's the same thing. Well, not completely the same, but the notes are the same. Obviously different instrument, different intensity. What do you think? Leave us a comment. Let us know. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. The best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. And don't forget to enable notifications. As always, thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time, right here on GameRanx.